Many thoughts crossed my mind during this, but I did stick to one because it seemed inherently very interesting to what you were speaking, and I don't know whether it is intuitive or just luck by chance that what I'm thinking of your answer comes on tapering down to almost a very parallel track, if not similar, and sometimes even same. So I want to contextualize a bit so that I am clearer. My request would be, because you speak so many good things, then one part of that answer is all that I can respond to. And then by then you have already spoken about something equally weighty and then weighty. So I am thinking, no, I would want the audiences to get some time to reflect on what you're saying. So if you could manage to answer in a manner where we have some space around it to reflect, sheerly from the audience perspective, because I go on a completely different track. Is my reaction to every word that you're saying is there an inherent connection to, so which is possible that some people in the audience might be doing the same thing. While you were talking, somehow you used the word success somewhere, which also triggered how we kind of started the discussion that if one were to define one space, would it be when we were discussing what we would speak on in one line? So my WhatsApp message to you at that point of time was whether defining success was connected to defining the pace of my life in some manner. So here, when you were speaking, one of the thoughts that came to me was, because I used the word knowledge and ignorance prior to this answer, ignorance generally is seen as a very negative term, but somewhere during your answer you use the word uncertainty and some synonyms of it. I want to start with a story. There's a book called Stillness Flowing. That book is on Ajahn Chah's life, who was, quote unquote, my words, the Buddha of our age, if one were to call him. In the forest monk tradition, he is one of the foremost names, and some of the biggies that we have today who speak in the Buddhist circuit have been in his students. So this book called Stillness Flowing is written by Ajahn Jayasaro. And there is one story in it that when he went through the last 10 or 12 years of his life, he was almost bedridden or in a very, very bad shape, Ajahn Chah. And so much so that there were two monks looking after him while he was just bedridden. So once the king or some higher authority was coming to see him, and for security purposes, two guys came and checked on that security wise it was proper. So they refused to remove their shoes before getting into that cabin or whatever, in spite of being told by everybody else not to do so. So every time they went with their shoes on inside the cabin, their transmitters refused to work. And this went on for quite some time, till the time they kind of decided that they were okay with it and they removed their shoes. They had their protocol, but they removed it, and once they went it worked perfectly fine, which is kind of attributed to some kind of miraculous lesson learning from Ajahn Chah perhaps. But that was not the important part of the story for me. Here the context to me was, very often we look at knowledge as being, quote unquote, non-fluid. It's like cast in stone. This is what I know. This is what is right. And Ajahn Chah, as a matter of fact, gave a lot of emphasis to uncertainty. He says the one thing that will benefit you a lot in your practice is if you reconcile yourself to the fact that whatever you know at any point of time is uncertain. If you want to reach any level of certainty in your life, which is the state of enlightenment or whatever goal that you're seeking, whatever you know at any point of time, you've got to be uncertain of it. And this example to me, that the story that I narrated to me was more an example of that kind, that you come from a sense of authority. You have a worldview which is of a certain manner, which is something that you also spoke of, that we need to do a lot more experiments. But on an individual basis also, very often, say when we started talking about that, we would have these kind of conversations on and off. If any of us felt there was something that we could speak on, the confidence that I could trust you to be honest and truthful was the most important part of my proposal. Now that every week I've been speaking to you, the new knowledge is, you bring a certain sense of uh, connections between a lot of thinkers that you have read and followed or interacted with. Uh, and I try to be calm and not get overwhelmed by the amount of knowledge that is being shared in such a quick manner on a platform that is being recorded, so I do not have time to reflect and ask, quote unquote, what would be assumed as a stupid question. Oh, I didn't understand this. Uh, Having said that, there is also the confidence and in my own honesty and integrity to follow what is being said. Be honest if I do not understand anything. I just park it there because I may have a question running. That's a separate thing. But in the sense of not knowing, not intimidating me. So this is where I'm coming to that question and the connection back to success. That this talk works for me because I am not enamored by my own or your wisdom, but it is a genuine seeking ground for both of us to figure out, okay, is this what it means? Or is this what it is leading to? Now, that knowledge that is blessing us at this point of time, for want of a better term, is just leading us down the rabbit hole the way it wants. We both do not have a handle on it. The most we can say is we are trying to be perceptive, intuitive, and grasp the unsaid and give it some words to help each other understand. And then together thinking that if we put this out, somebody somewhere will benefit from this and build on this, or respond to us, or or build and just give it back to the world, or just be peaceful or happy or joyous that this kind of understanding exists. Um, so my question to you is ignorance, now I use ignorance in this fairly wide sense of the term, not in a discriminatory way where I'm looking down upon it. I'm saying, okay, let me use the word uncertainty to go with what you said and what Ajahn Chah has spoken about. Is uncertainty a friend? And if it is, how do we counter the various barriers within to befriend this uncertainty? Because there is doubt, there is fear, uh, there is this love of certainty. You would want to know. Why would you be happy about not knowing? I would love it if you can personalize this for us, because in the last two chats we've had, you've spoken about these 11 years, and it intrigues me uh, to know in particular if you've had something where this penny drop happened or something that would help understand why you quote unquote mellowed down. If I were to use the term, I'm unsure whether it's the right term, but in a way mellowed down on the ego front or on the seeking front at some point. In fact, I think in the last chat you mentioned that, no, I thought I was a seeker, but I wasn't. Now that is a huge uh, jump, known from personal experience many times. It's not even a single jump, I would think. Very often you go ahead and look back in retrospect and you think, what was I thinking? This wasn't even the right track of thought. So again, is uncertainty a friend? And how does one go about befriending this very, very difficult emotion?
I don't know what the answer is going to be as I heard the question. To that extent, I can say that right now I'm already in the uncertain mode. As I try to make sense of the question that Bunty has landed, I am in an uncertain mode as to what the question, what could be of an honorable, a dignified response to what Bunty has just said. As this is uncertain, the question that to my mind is, what's happening in my body right now? I don't have the answer. So I know for a fact that 11 years back, if I was in a similar situation, I would have been super anxious to want to be, right and apt and intelligent and certain. I I can lay it out, and it's for people to believe or not that I do not have that right now. That I'm okay that if I don't answer this question, and I don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes, honestly. But I'm okay if I were to, by the end of a few sentences or 100 of them, if I were to say I still don't have an answer. And I think that that expression, if it is integrated inside, if it is coming from inside, one would be at ease with it. But if it is a put-up show, that I was saying it because it's a performance, the screen is on, the camera is on, and I have to perform, then somewhere I'll know that it's hollow inside, and it'll make me anxious, it will make me insecure and fearful of this itself. So that's my first intuition on what you just shared. The second intuition is when I began this journey on 1st of September 2012, I thought I know what I want. I thought that, what is missing in the world is there are some very deep questions. I just need to collect those set of questions, and then somebody would have answered it. I just need to find किसने answer किया है, उसको थोड़ा समझना होगा, and I need to put them together. And the only thing which I was foolishly thinking genius of myself was that I thought that because those answers may be different, they're not on the single page, I just need to bring them on the single page. So imagine even this question, is uncertainty a friend? Suppose this question was put up on a chat GPT. I'm just hypothetically putting up. I thought that I would have a version of ChatGPT in my small app that I wanted to create in 2012, where you put that question and then suddenly you'll get an answer. Buddha meant this, Krishna said this, Mahavir said this, Guru Nanak said this, Plato said this, Aristotle said this. I just need to put them on a single page, and then people will be good enough to judge कि क्या है, सही है, गलत है, जो भी है. I think it's not the dearth of information. It's two things. One is, I think let me start somewhere else. I think let me first look at the rubric of friend and non-friend, and then certainty and uncertainty. I think a rubric of friend is an interesting social construction, social phenomena in human existence, I feel. Because there is a certain level of choice that you have to be or to make friend, to be somebody's friend or to make someone as a friend. The choice you generally don't have with your family because you're brought into that family and you have that kinship, or you're supposed to have the kinship. there's a certain texture to the kind of friendships that we all experience. Now, some of them may be universal and some of them may be very mythological also. There's this thing called unconditional friendship, like you have unconditional love. There's this thing of being able to share things with friends which you don't share with many people sometimes. But I'm also very wary that, UK is the only country in the world which has Ministry of Loneliness. And a particular course in America almost a decade ago said that 1 in 4 Americans do not have a close friend. That tells me something. Why do you require a Ministry of Loneliness? And why does 1 person in 4 in America does not have a close friend? Something there, something that needs to be probed a little more. Which means I think we're already bad at friendship, or we do not understand what is friendship, or we need to go a little more deeper to understand friendship and live the friendship. Sometimes it's not the question of understanding. Don't put too much of mind, just live the friendship. That's also okay for some people. So that's one rubric that I want to invoke. On certainty and uncertainty, and I'll try and come back and tie them together if it happens. On certainty and uncertainty, I remember I was having this conversation with Margaret Heffernan. She's been recently inducted in Thinkers 50 of the world. And one of her very interesting book that came out just before COVID was the book titled Uncharted. The book actually is about how to deal with uncertainties. Uncharted, as the title suggests, it's not charted. You can't put charts around it, right? They think these things they just show up, and then you have to deal with them. So there is adaptive certainty, maladaptive certainty, adaptive uncertainty, and maladaptive uncertainty. I think what we are seeking as humans is more and more of adaptive certainty and adaptive uncertainty, and either wishing away the maladaptive certainty and uncertainties or having the resilience or ability to handle them. In the service of this, what we are doing in terms of our capability building, understanding our own self, our choice of goals, our choice of people that we hang around with, what we put into our minds through these small screens, big screens, what we eat, how's our movement, how's our sleep, all of that, there are these multi-factors that work together for us to be able to deal with own self and outside. And last bit, I think there is certainty and uncertainty inside, and there is certainty and uncertainty outside. So you get 2 by 2, certainty inside, certainty outside, certainty inside, certainty out, uncertainty outside, uncertainty inside, uncertainty outside, uncertainty inside, certainty outside, right? I think we have all 4 experiences. It's just that we don't put them into buckets. We don't do journaling. We should do, I would strongly encourage doing some practices around just putting some thoughts around कि इसमें क्या हुआ आज के दिन, इसमें क्या हुआ, इसमें क्या हुआ. And what I have realized is, while I do need to work outside to put some kind of certainty, which our humanity has achieved so much. Like today, you're sitting in a room, you don't have to worry a tiger will suddenly come into your drawing room, right? So you put certain. Remember, look at the word we are using. You put a certain structure in place to take care of some of the wild, so that you are able to domesticate and create a friendly atmosphere around, right? So temperature is just about right, lights just about right, telecom bandwidth ठीक चल रहा है. So there is a certain level of certainty that we have already achieved as human beings. But we are either taking it for granted or we are not grateful enough. While all of this is there, our experience with uncertainty and our skill with uncertainty needs an upgradation. Which means to expect it to happen or consider it as normal, and then seeing how we are building our capability to help each other, help our own self. And last bit, on the aspect of friendship, I mean, I don't know, I think it was Pascal. Just when COVID broke out, a quote would do around, there were a lot of quotes. Nowadays, we are all, we share a lot of quotes with each other with different intentions and stuff. But one quote that came across was Pascal. I think he said that man's biggest problem is, and I may be wrong and I may not get it verbatim, but what he was saying is man's biggest problem is the inability to shut up and sit in a small room all by his own self. And the reason why we are not able to do that is we are not our own good friends in the first place. So I think if we become our own good student, our own good friend, our own good ability to manage our own inner certainty and uncertainty, our ability to then show up for these things outside might be differently shining and graceful, is what I feel.
It's a beautiful, you started with a lot of beauty, and it's so beautiful how we did land up at getting an answer to the original question, although you refused to jump to the temptation of giving a clever and an intelligent answer, which would have been lovely as well, because I believe what happens has its own merit in terms of facticity of the moment as well. While we are quick to judge this or that, I think there is no discarding the beauty of what is in the moment as much as one can deal with. I was smiling because you did mention that in this space that I've created, so a wild animal or a tiger could not come in, or well, a monkey has been doing the rounds of my building for quite a few days. And the other day, my mom was outside. I was kind of sleeping in an extended sleep. I'd finished my whatever work, and in the morning I was taking a nap or something. And she started screaming because the monkey decided that it was time for our flat to be honored. And he had come in and she was screaming. And the first thing I did when I jumped out of my bed and went till there was ask my mother to calm down. I said, he will do what he is doing, but you calm down first so that we can figure out what needs to be done. I just looked at him and he looked at me and he decided that he wanted to leave the flat, and luckily he went away, and I ensured that he was not waiting in the balcony. He went away, caught the railing and went to some other side. When you were speaking, I realized the housemaid had come right now and she wanted to clean the room, but she saw that I was busy and she just went off right almost at the moment while you were describing that I have made certain that this space will not be compromised in terms of the video going on without any stopping. But the beauty of your answer and this experience itself that I've been mentioning in the present moment itself was also that I wasn't worked up about her coming here or me looking at her, because there was nothing I could do about it. One of the learnings I've had about uncertainty is when you start factoring uncertainty in your inherent certainty, it leaves you free to be surprised and does not shock you as often. Of course, there are days, there are off days, there are mindset issues. You may be troubled by something else, so you are not calm and quiet. Or but practice over a period of time when you are willing to look at all the uncertainties that keep happening inherent in human existence, if not all of existence. Uncertainty because we don't know, and we are, I think, like the primordial man, very enraged by the fact that we do not know, and we would want to be in control of the situation, and we would want to know. And that's why terms like harnessing nature and conquering nature, and we refuse to be humble about being part of nature. So what's wrong if we don't understand some part of it? So what's wrong if we do not have control of a particular situation? Even in a quote unquote wise conversation that we are supposedly having, where the depth of thought has a lot of meaning. And unlike my regular podcast, which may cause us to uh, joke or laugh sometimes, here we are, seriously trying to pursue a line of thought to understand what's coming up. We're still quite okay with this occasional not knowing. Like, you started the question surprising me, saying, "Hey, look, I don't have anything to say." I said, okay, I did not expect that to, again, I had no answer in mind, but I knew that some answer would come up. But when you said that you did not have an answer, and to me, that was the most beautiful way of putting across, look, the answer itself is uncertain, so I do not want to commit myself. So, in respect of your question, I will try thinking aloud. If we reach somewhere, well and good. But I am not guaranteeing you an answer even at the end of this uh, pontification, if that's the word for it. We may reach somewhere with it and we may not. Uh, so one last thing that is coming to mind with this is that if you could also comment on it, would be nice. Do you think humility plays a huge part in this seeking? Because at, at least in my experience, every time I have gone thinking that I know, or even if I've understood, in spite of the fact that I may have understood it, the pride of having understood whatever ABC that seeking led me to, I have found it trips me the moment I try to be very sure about it. So if I stand and say we are in a boardroom discussion and I'm making a proposal or I'm talking to you about something, I like to think that it's only a proposal. Let me not be too sure about it. Let's just hear out what the other people are saying. Last night itself, I had gone for a walk, and I don't know, there was a girl and a boy fighting, and the girl was screaming on the road. And I mean screaming. They were alone, and I was walking through a dark patch. But she was screaming, and in Marathi, she said the word that you never listen to what is being said. And I actually prayed for them as I went forward. Not that they were fighting in a tradition, they had quite a lot of distance between them, so I wasn't too worried that it will get physical or something. But the screaming was very high level, and my heart went out to her and to him, not knowing what was the scenario. Obviously, I just heard that one line. And this ability of the same thing, the humility to hear what nature is trying to tell us or what our own self is trying to tell us about ourselves. You also mentioned the beautiful quote during which was doing the rounds during COVID times. The ability to sit, just to sit, it's okay. Even in meditation, I think sometimes we get caught up into saying, okay, I will meditate now, not knowing that the mind may decide it will not. So you may have a restless half an hour, 1 hour, whatever you're trying. The object of your meditation evading you completely. It happens very often. It happens. The ability to accept that and saying, okay, I do not know. Do you want to say anything about the humility it involves, and can it be a conscious choice? Um, Even if you were to bring up something you did in your last answer, bring it up in your personal experience, because you deal with a lot of thoughts and it's kind of your professional offering also. So very often you would be sitting with people across the board, uh, high flying executives, where you would definitely want to sound impressive and intelligent and wise. How do you ensure that you allow the humility to be at the center of what you're offering, or is there any such thing at all, or is that a process? How does it work in your case?
I think there is an in the writing of the book that happened. Uh, there were a bunch of what we call as devices that we were using that would aid. At least they have aided in my journey. Uh,
Okay.
two of them that comes to my mind right now is most of the words, the word like humility. We need an archaeological level of excavation of such concept over a period of time to even understand what it could stand for. In absence of it doesn't mean that we can't do anything. That's not the invocation.
Okay.
I think different. This is where I think some things at least became. When I began the journey in 2012, and then we tried creating app, and then we tried creating a fitness league, a mind body soul kind of thing. Then we were lucky to do Thank You India. When we were doing when we were doing those things, I remember having one specific conversation with the then Thane commissioner. We were working very closely with police for something as a social experiment, and I would catch myself using the following phrase, which is, "If love cannot solve it, nothing can." And for a few years, I would literally try to use that as a filter to, oh, this is not getting solved. Love will solve it. Compassion will solve it. I will put humility again in the same rubric. Love, compassion, humility, gratitude, awe, humor, play. Over the years, in my own personal journey, I have realized one meta principle. So while there are principles and beliefs, so I can say there is meta principle, meta belief, that whatever I hold, and I can speak for myself, whatever I hold as, supreme or over-indexed, I need to know that it's contextual. Its application is contextual. And the word contextual here is very interesting, at least for me, that if I take up a role of a CEO, then I need to be aware that my decisions, my choices will have both positive and negative implications, internally and externally. And when I take that decision, in the act of deciding itself, that decision might be seen as humble or non-humble. That decision itself might be value-laden. Example, if somebody says, for the company to survive, this particular person who's not being able to, after a series of interventions and possibilities, if this person, this team, this product, this geography, this key account is not really turning around and it jeopardizes the rest of the organization, then I will have to take a call. And when I take that call, some people might see it as non-humble. Right? So how people view my actions and speech is one aspect of humility. Even this, what I'm speaking right now, some people might see it as arrogance. And we can both put our hats and we can say that this particular expression, this micro expression, actually is an arrogant way. Why is this person holding? Is he holding a mic? He's holding a thing. Why is he holding it like this? Is he holding a mic? That's arrogance, right? So my speech and actions are subject to people's intersubjectivity, and they may see it as non-humble. That's one rubric. The other rubric is what I feel and think about my own speech and actions is also important. it's very much possible that I may feel and think that my current response is not a non-humble, it's humble. But somebody may come across and say, no, it's a non-humble. Then there is bound to be a discord. That's one bucket of what is emerging, Bunty. You know, I don't know whether Bruce Lee meant the following also, because I think one of his famous invocation was be like water, be water, my friend. Be water, my friend. And I think one of the invocation was to be able to be agile enough and, because the water, yeah. And if you really look at the metaphor of water, the water doesn't think ki if a kilometer down there is a rock, I will behave like this. I think the water is responding even as the rock is appearing, right? So it's responding to the immediate. And there is a certain kind of dance that can be achieved in being immediately responsive or responsive to the immediate. The flip side is one man's humility could be another man's wimp or cowardice. That's again intersubjectivity. If I don't take a decision, certain leaders in the world today are leaders because they're seen as decisive, more vocal, more decisive, more expressive, right? So I think we have to deal with we have to deal with the following. One is how others feel and see and perceive you, but your own reflection of your own self. And of course, taking constructive feedback and criticism from others also. It's not to say that put a wall and say whatever you think and feel is right. I'm not saying that. Second, if we are drafted and if we have chosen some roles, we'll be called into taking those decisions and actions and choices. They will have an element of your ability to display some kind of conviction in why you're doing that and why you're not doing something else. And be ready for the consequences, whatever be the outcome. And the third is there is, because a lot of people are unable to deal with their insecurities, fears, jealousy, anxiety, ignorance, they're in over awe of somebody who's more the opposite of all of this, who's more confident, who's more expressive, who's more high decibel, who's chest thumping. So yeah, I think that's what is emerging for me right now. I know I haven't really responded to your question, but these are some of the things emerging.
No, you did. I think my question was more about oneself and one's point of view vis-a-vis the entire quote unquote the word that you use, archaeology of humility, that you very nicely actually answered. Although I was not going to ask that question, considering that we spent a lot of time today. But you answered that question. What did you mean by that archaeology of the term? So there is my point of view, there is the other's point of view, there is this maybe even the situational point of view, where both of us may be seeing opposing points of view because the situation is such. I want to end on one answer that you did not give here, but which is inherent to part of how you do things, is you use the word inter and co very liberally whenever you're defining things. I think that's a very instinctive way of you to bring humility into the situation, because you are always proposing that you are not alone in the deciding of what it means in this moment. So because of the certain inherent uncertainty and humility of that moment, that we are co-hosting this or we are co-creating this moment, or there is this interdependence on each other for these thoughts to emerge. I think that is also one of the answers that came to me while you were answering that, oh, you do use it as a practice, and it's a good way to start re-looking at things in our lives. And that's all from me as of right now. I'm not asking you any more questions, so this can go on forever. But thank you so much. There's a lot of reflections, and I'm glad that we are having these conversations because these are leading to my own better understanding of how I see things and how perhaps further nuances can be brought into uh, understanding my own self or the propositions you are making or re-looking at the terms. Because as a writer, one thing I have understood is that all words are quote unquote false because they are only trying to reach the ultimate truth, and somewhere or the other they are always going to fall short because of contextual reasons, my perception, your perception, their meaning in this age and time. So there is just too much of ambiguity and uncertainty to go back to. Uh, but I'm glad we are having these discussions. Thank you for giving your time. Um,
Thanks a lot,
we
Bunty.
shall talk soon.